Hey everybody, welcome back to You Are Free TV. It is Thursday, November 9th, 2023. I'm so glad to be back with you here on the channel. I'll jump in with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act and reporting. It is not intended to bully or harass anyone, never to incite violence or hatred or lawlessness of any kind. It doesn't give legal, medical, or financial advice. There are further disclaimers in the description below. So I'm so glad to be back with you here, and thank you so much to everybody who supports the channel. You keep it going, and I'm so appreciative and grateful to be able to keep doing the news with you. So we'll jump in here. I'm going to start, pretty much going to cover the waterfront here, what's going on in the last day, and just plow forward with some special interest subjects. So today is the 85th anniversary of Kristallnacht, okay, in Nazi Germany, where in the 9th and 10th of November 1938 is when they had the night of breaking glass, where the 2 days of breaking glass, where they went and destroyed all the Jewish businesses, homes, raided different institutions. Of course, in what was the first rounding up there of 30,000, mostly young Jewish men, fighting age men, okay, and put them in concentration camps. And the reason I'm mentioning that, and the rest of the history was this: they decided to do this, set it off because a Jewish, Polish Jewish man, young man whose family had been displaced and taken out of their property in Poland and put into a refugee camp, had everything stolen from them. He escaped to Paris and shot a German ambassador in Paris to do with the embassy there. Shot him. He died a couple days later. And they use this as an excuse to go on, and the Effie, and we know it's all planned, but to exercise Kristallnacht and set off what became then, of course, the full-scale rounding up of the Jews in Germany. And it's all very interesting. There's so many things I could say about that, but it's interesting that we're in this time period here, 85 years later, where we're looking at massive assaults against everybody who is fighting for freedom and fighting for the continuation in this country of our United States, of our constitutional republic. And I'm going to segue here into what's going on in New Jersey right now with the manhunt, the FBI manhunt of a man named Gregory Yettman. Gregory Yettman. I'm putting out prayers there for Greg Yettman today because the entire FBI massive SWAT team, special police, are going in there to manhunt him down. They leaked the raid to the mainstream media so that they would have helicopters, reporters there to go and attempt to arrest this man who had been charged. He was, I believe, he was suspect number 278 AFO or something like this, in the ongoing roundup of J6 people who attended a 1 million person rally to contest what was, through all the evidence that's out there, a stolen election in 2020. And so Greg Yettman, who was a military police sergeant in the National Guard in New Jersey, just retired. This was after J6 retired with a total honorable discharge in his retirement for having served the National Guard for all this time, was a military police sergeant. He basically fled when the FBI is finally coming for him. And we can understand why he would flee. And I want to actually put prayers out there because we have seen that the FBI raids have resulted in multiple deaths of people who attended the J6 rally, one with a man in a wheelchair, in his late 50s, gunned him down in his home. These people it makes me think of Solzhenitsyn, right? It makes me think of like the Gulag archipelago, where, Solzhenitsyn said, like, if we had only, banded together early on, if we'd only realized that if they were, going to come for us, that we would stand together, then they never would have been able to get to do what they did. And this is, I think, really poignant right now, because when we look at the Gulag, the American Gulag, of what's happening to January 6th political prisoners, it gets worse and worse, what we're seeing out there, what's happening to these people. So prayers to Greg Yettman that he doesn't get gunned down by FBI special police forces. And, we hear Christopher Wray the other day coming out and saying, just to let America know, we have massive amounts of Hezbollah and Hamas activists, operatives out of Iran functioning in our country. They're coming after people. They're designating them for assassination. But no, what is the FBI doing? They're hunting down a man, Greg Yettman, who supposedly had pepper spray on January 6th, sprayed it in the vicinity of a Capitol Police officer. And we know that there was brutal beatdowns going on. We have a older woman dying, I can't remember her name, beaten to death by batons in the tunnel there, connected to the Capitol. Massive amounts of harm and deaths. Ashley Babbitt shot, short range, killed, where she could have just simply been arrested or whatever. We know the opposite is true, and this ongoing witch hunt against people who attended a lawful, legal, peaceful rally, and then it was the beatdowns, the Capitol Police violence that set up so much of this. And it was, we know, Pelosi orchestrated for entertainment purposes only, her daughter already having the rights to a documentary that they were going to put on HBO. The woman I mentioned yesterday, Felicia, who had been approached by the Pelosi's daughter's HBO network documentary she was making through that woman's lawyer, Felicia's lawyer, who's now facing possible 6 months in prison. Who literally asked, she let her lawyer give her this interview because she thought it would be good for her case, but they asked her 10-year-old son at the time, hey, how does it feel that your mother is a teist, a terrorist, and she sent them packing, right? This is who we're dealing with. This is the corrupt state. So prayers go out that Greg Yettman will be safe and not be shot dead by the FBI. And when we look at Matt Gaetz today coming out and putting an amendment to stop what is a $300 million project to build a new FBI headquarters larger than the Pentagon, 300 million US taxpayer dollars to be used to hunt down basically the MAGA base to terrorize American citizens. And of course, MTG put out again the attempt to impeach Mayorkas. No oath on file for Mayorkas. Entertainment purposes only. Todd Callender. They proved there's no oath that is legitimate by Mayorkas. And the weaponization of the DHS against the U.S. citizenry. But let's look at Matt Gaetz. So he says, I'm putting out this amendment. The DC FBI has been responsible for the constant harassment and weaponizing of the FBI against U.S. citizens, whether it is the Catholics with the Latin Mass, whether it is the J6 people, whoever it is, we're getting this treatment of U.S. citizens as political prisoners in the American DC Gulag. And as I reported in my last video, Joe Biggs, days and days of what they call dieseling, where they've taken 6 days to transport him from one federal prison to another, where they keep him in these cuffs that cut off his circulation, literally cause damage, nerve damage, permanent damage. The not giving them food, not giving them medicine. Most of these people who got the biggest sentences, the 17 years, the 21 years, Stuart Rhodes, Joe Biggs, a lot of these people are military veterans. And with Veterans Day coming up, I wanted to suggest that people consider writing letters, writing letters to these people who are incarcerated, that literally only wanted to question the election that has been proven without a doubt to have massive fraud go on with the machines, the ballot stuffing, the Facebook, Zuckerberg, bucks, all of it. And so I want to bring people to the attention of condemnedusa.com, condemnedusa.com. This is Travis Evans, people like Norm Pattis, who is the attorney for many of these people incarcerated, and to basically say, how about we write letters? I'm going to put in the description below at least 5 addresses of the exact places you can write to these people who are incarcerated for long sentences for this J6 political prisonership. And so go ahead for Veterans Day. Let's celebrate. Mostly these are veterans, okay? And then also we're all veterans now of what is this political war against the United States, okay? This deep state Cartel Babylon attempted coup in our country. Let's write them letters, okay? And let's ask Mike Johnson. Let's call him, whether you got your BillBlaster app or you call on the switchboard 202-225-3121, and getting Mike Johnson to say, hey, you're from Louisiana. Owen Shroyer is being held captive there in solitary confinement with very, very little information even getting out to his lawyer. They can't even get any information out. How about Mike Johnson goes there to the Oakdale federal prison there in Louisiana and asks what's going on and what treatment is happening. Let's give these people a call and ask them to do something for all of these people, because while they can have massive manhunts for Greg Yettman there in New Jersey, we get people, even there was the ex-Senator McSally. I'm not a fan of her work in the Senate, but McSally was literally attempted rape yesterday. She was jogging along the Iowa side of the Missouri River outside Omaha, Nebraska, went for a jog and got attacked by a man and fondled her up, attempted rape. She was able to fight him down. She's an ex-Air Force Air Force pilot and officer, and she was able to fight him off, force him into the bushes. She called the police, right? They came and they didn't find the guy. There was no helicopters. There was nobody coming to her aid. No massive manhunt from the FBI for the attacker of an ex-senator. And we're constantly seeing every lowlife be released from prison, always claiming mental instability, can't stand trial. We get in Nashville today, a woman in the park was just hanging out. She's a musician hanging out in the park. A lovely young woman, Jillian Ludwig. She gets killed. I don't know if it was today or yesterday, by a stray bullet by this guy Taylor, who had multiple arrests, for constant violence. African-American guy, had been guilty of multiple violent altercations, all kinds of stuff. He had been released after another inability to stand trial. Baloney. She's dead now because of him. So this is what's going on. I know I'm going on for 14 minutes. I didn't expect to, but I just want to say we need to, on Veterans Day, honor the veterans in every way we can, but especially maybe let's get out there with a letter writing campaign. And I will link at least five addresses below that you could write letters to. And so moving on from there, coming back, we're hearing that we have the situation where we find out that multiple witnesses have said that the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF, had been was part of the slaughtering of what happened on October 7th, shooting their own Israeli citizens. That is now made public, that the IDF shot down a ton of the citizens there in the outside of Gaza, Negev settlements. And this is getting more and more heated, right? We've got also the situation where CNN, Reuters, AP all paid money to this freelance photographer who is literally a member of Hamas, who was a theist, who was filming everything that was being done, okay, in the attacks, okay, on October 7th, that they were paying him for this footage, and he literally was carrying grenades, a part of the whole part of the whole assault, and that's also coming out, and I think that's really important to understand. And so I also want to get into, in Spain, we have the Vox Party in Spain. They literally won the last elections through popular votes in Spain, but the leftists are really wanting to control Spain, and they're refusing to allow the new government to form there in Spain under this, basically what is the MAGA party of Spain. And today we have the attempted assassination of the co-founder of the party, Viejo Cadras. I know I'm, obliterating the name. I apologize. He was 78 years old. He helped form this party in Spain. This was basically to fight the EU refugee Muslim invasion of what's going on in the southern border of Spain, and the attempt to take Spain out from being a Christian country and all of the woke baloney. But they have been marching in the streets, massive protests after this already before, because they're saying our country is in a coup. We are being prevented from forming a government, and they're fighting back. But he was shot in the face, still alive, and of course attempted assassination. And so this is what we're looking at, folks. We're looking at, when we look at what could happen in this country with the elections coming forward, we pray for President Trump. Kicked it out of the park last night with an incredible rally there in Miami. Across the road there, pretty much from the debates. Okay, and the debates, the Republican debates were awash. Okay, they were awash. Ramaswamy, of course, kicked it out of the park. He was amazing. He basically called out Ronna McDaniel, said, "Why don't you come up here on the stage right now and resign? Because ever since you got in power there in 2017, Romney McDaniel, all we've done is lose. We've lost because she won't fund any MAGA candidates, funds to defeat the Trump base every step of the way." And Ramaswamy said, this is a joke. The Republican Party is a joke. The fact that we're doing this on NBC is a joke, that we're having to deal with partisan people asking us questions. He literally goes to the NBC reporter and says, "Hey, you reported the Russia collusion hoax for 3 years. Can you say that was wrong, that you were wrong?" He asked her to respond. She won't respond. She's just smiling like the Cheshire Cat, and basically saying, we should have other people up here, pundits, who can actually ask us the real questions that we want to hear. And so Ramaswamy, of course, won the day. He said Nikki Haley is like Dick Cheney in heels, which is great catchword there, and true. And because Nikki Haley's family and her enterprise was bankrupted basically by the time she left the UN position, and then got on the board of Boeing, became super rich, made tons of money, and now running for president as the military neocon run there, Nikki Haley, but nobody's gaining any traction. None of them. They can't gain any traction. So at the Trump rally, we had an incredible speech by Trump. He's getting more and more forward about talking about the weaponization of government, talking about how he's going to totally drain the deep state. We had Roseanne Barr come up early on. She was introducing Kimberly Guilfoyle, and she basically said, I consider Trump to be like the matador who's going to kill the bullshit of the deep state. And very excellent presentation there by her. But then, of course, we have Sarah Sanders come up and also introduce the president. And Sarah Sanders, now the governor of Arkansas, she has done incredible legislation. Recently, she passed legislation to make it illegal to use any words that diminish or erase women as a biological half of the coin, women, that you can't use a birthing person, you can't use all these transgender crap words to describe women in any kind of governmental processes. So that's a great win in Arkansas with Sarah Sanders. And she also recently has expelled China, CCP, in the form of the company called Syngenta, which is a biotech food industry company that is, of course, creating vaccines in the foods. And they had a few hundred acres of land where they had their facility there in Arkansas. She said, nope, we're taking this from you. You have to leave. You're expelled. So yes, we applaud Sarah Sanders. And so going on from there, I want to get to another really interesting situation where we have the New Zealand grid going down in the last few days. It was only about 14 hours only. But people lost thousands of dollars to their businesses. This had to do with the Optus Internet group. They're the largest runners of the internet and cellular systems there in New Zealand, and their grid went down for 14 hours, and people could not use the trains, in Melbourne. People need to understand that the internet is running everything, it's running everything. It's not just if your grid goes down, like we have no power, although there's that important, I'll get into that in a minute. But the internet runs all transactions. It runs pretty much our infrastructure. It's all being run through the internet. And so if the internet goes down, you get nothing can run for trains, for any kind of, banks, obviously, but also just purchases. You can't go out anywhere and buy anything. And so what happened in New Zealand, you had the grid go down for 14 hours across New Zealand, and Australia, and both New Zealand and Australia. So in Melbourne, the trains wouldn't run, nobody could buy anything, nobody could access their money in the banks. And the CEO of Optus says that it'll probably happen again, right? Because Optus just recently had about 10 million users data hacked, from them, and they're meant to be the internet company in Australia and New Zealand that would run the CBDC or the digital ID system, right? And it's so crazy because they're like, well, our internet just failed, but you should have a digital ID, and you should give us more data, even though 10 million people just had all of their data hacked. In the US, it's been, tenfold that in the last several years, where all of these companies have had our digital ID stolen and used for nefarious purposes. We have Z Media, Maria Z, the awesome Maria Z, out of New Zealand, talking about what is called the 50 and 5, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, kicking off just today or yesterday, this program with 50 countries, mostly developing countries, an experimental trial of basically using biometric digital surveillance to identify everybody in their countries and to get on board for sharing data of everybody. Okay, this is the unified ledger I've talked about out of the UN, where they share all of the biometric data. They use biometric data, okay, to locate you, to influence you, to record everything you're doing, so that they can get their digital ID system up and running for a social credit score that it's coming very soon to your hometown. And what's going on with this 50 in 5, okay, in 5 years' times, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, is that they will be able to, basically tell who you are and what kind of social credit score you should get. And you can go to biometricupdate.com, get some really good news there, biometricupdate.com. I'll link it below. In China, if you are considered an untrustworthy person, right, if your social credit score drops below 550 is their number, then you cannot ride the trains, okay? You cannot go anywhere. You are glued to your phone. If you don't have phone, if you lose your phone, you can't get home because you have to show this code that says that you are eligible as a worthy person to get on a train, okay, to pay a bill, to purchase food. All right, you have to have this this credit score that's above 550, and you can't even go to a vending machine to buy a Coke that's filled with, fetal cells and sensors. Okay, that's what Deborah Tavares has been uncovering. You can't go to buy these foods that are going to poison you out of a vending machine unless your social credit score is above 550. You have to use it for everything to scan that code, QR style. Do not QR, people. Do not give in to one bit of QRing. Don't QR with anything. It's an energetic. Okay, once you give in to one little thing of, I'm just going to QR for this restaurant so I can read the menu, you're opening up your phone to massive data infiltration into you. Okay, it's one QR. Okay, to defeat them all. Right, one ring to defeat them all. It is, the QR system is super integrated, and they all feed into each other in a centralized QR system. So do not QR. And this is the zero trust model that's being implemented as a surveillance prison planet state. They call it zero trust, where they don't trust you. You are an enemy of the state. Everything is about collecting your biometrics and all of your information to create your social credit score system. And it is, of course, through all of the banks, through MasterCard, and all of the, what they're putting forward for what's going to be the CBDCs. And so I wanted to mention that, and I wanted to get into a released by Deborah Tavares, who put up a great interview yesterday on the Parabnormal network. I'll link it below, where she's talking about them repurposing, and we've heard about this before, but it's going full bore now here in the United States and elsewhere, repurposing water, which basically means using our wastewater, okay, to make it into drinking water. So you're peeing, all of this, everything all of your medications, your whatever it is that's going into the wastewater system is to become our new drinking water system. All right, that is their plan. While we have primary water, which is just created by the earth, there is no peak water baloney. That's a World Economic Forum lie. We have, just like the earth creates oil and natural gas, the earth does it. You can overuse it, like with mountaintop removal, and when it comes to natural gas or coal, or deep fracking for coal, you can overuse, deep fracking for natural gas, you can overuse those things, you could say. However, oil, water, that's made by the earth. That was given to us by God. It regenerates, okay? And if it's been over depleted, you wait 50 years and it reconstitutes itself. And with water, it's created through a molecular process under the earth, with hydrogen, oxygen molecules underneath the mantle of the earth to create water. And then through our beautiful system given to us by God, that water that's forced upward to the surface for us to use for our water. So every time they say, oh, it's only runoff from the Sierras, it's only this, and even if it is from the Sierras in California, they just flush that fresh water into the Pacific, as President Trump, I think, put out there so clearly, so that we can't use it, for farming, etc., creating fake droughts, fake farming infrastructure problems. No, it's not true. We have plenty of water, and they just want us to drink the wastewater, eat the bugs, the World Economic Forum and criminals, Cartel Babylon. And so moving on from there, I wanted to get into the situation with what's going on with hydrogen. The Biden administration has put in like $3 billion to public-private partnerships. Basically, that is the fascist model for our taxpayer dollars going in to pay usually globalist firms to come in and create these energy systems, right? The failure of wind, the failure of solar, all of it created in China. Well, the same thing going on here with hydrogen. We're getting this push for hydrogen fuel, energy systems. And what's going on here is that hydrogen will actually use that primary water. The hydrogen plants will be using our primary water, to split the molecules to create hydrogen fuel. All right, so they're going to split the molecules, use the water, and then also I have to look further into it, but I believe it also depletes oxygen, creating this hydrogen fuel system. And it's really important to understand that NEOM, that line city there in Saudi Arabia, they're touting saying this whole thing is going to be fueled by hydrogen. So they must be able to get water somewhere there in Saudi Arabia. They must already know, like in Libya, where we had Gaddafi create the river system. He was going to create a system of clean water for everybody in Libya to have free water using primary water, extraction. And they killed him over it, as well as the central bank system that he wasn't willing to be part of. But the primary water lie was also a big part of where Hillary Clinton said, we came, we saw, we conquered, right? Just like Ronna McDaniel doing her meltdown after Ramaswamy, completely obliterated her on the national stage yesterday. She had an HRC type meltdown where she basically said, he'll never get a penny of our RNC money, et cetera, et cetera. I know that's an aside, but I couldn't help but mention it. But this hydrogen as a green energy fuel system is very dodgy. It's very explosive. It's very it takes tons of water. That we need for humans, and we need for just having our infrastructure intact. And they want to basically say, you drink this processed wastewater from our sewage plants. Meanwhile, we take the water to create hydrogen instead of doing the usual, which is to use our oil and our natural gas. And so we had the explosion yesterday in Shepherd, Texas, where there was basically a massive explosion outside of Houston, where there was an explosion at the petroleum processing plant there in Houston. And I think it's really important to understand that outside Houston, where it used to be processing our as liquid gold, as Trump calls it, the massive amounts of oil reserves we have. Now Houston has turned into a processing plant, of Joe Biden's public-private partnership funding to things like sound resource solutions, taking Venezuela tar, tar form of oil, just totally dirty oil, and processing that for American, gasoline, and Sound Resource Solutions. I'm going to get into them in my next video. But basically, this petroleum processing plant exploded, a massive explosion yesterday where you had massive evacuations. People were told to stay in place in their homes, couldn't leave, and they finally, I think today, they're still evacuating. And, this is what happens, when you get this trying to process a really, really heavy form of it's not even crude oil, it's basically tar coming up, being bought from Venezuela by our fake president, instead of drilling, instead of using, we are the richest country in the world with oil, which not using it, and selling our reserves to China, makes us a primary target for any force that wants to come in here to basically steal all that oil. And so I wanted to mention that. Shepherd, Texas, massive petroleum processing plant run by Sound Resource Solutions, blows up, injures people, and they have to evacuate the citizens. And so I want to go from there to talk about, I mentioned the New Zealand internet grid going down, but I want to talk about in this country, we have the situation where our grid is very, very, just very vulnerable. And there is a great paper I'm going to link it below, but it's called Grid Down, Death of a Nation. Grid Down, Death of a Nation. 122 pages. I'm going to be reviewing it. I've been looking at it, and it's really incredibly informative about what happens when our grid goes down in this country. You can go to emptaskforce.us, emptaskforce.us. You can download it yourself for free, telling us what happens. Also a great documentary called Grid Down, Power Up that's narrated by Dennis Quaid that also is excellent. But why I'm referring to that is that we have a huge transformer problem, in an unhardened grid in this country. And we know that EMP, it could be the way that they take us down, at least temporarily, to create whatever it is they want to do while they have us offline. And when we look at the transformers, we have about 400 tons each transformers. They're 400 tons. These massive high voltage transformers, and there's 3,000 of them in the USA. Only about 12 are replaced every year. And they're not hardened. They should be encased in lead and steel. They're not hardened. They're not protected. And we're basically have been buying them from China. They used to be produced here, of course. These high voltage transformers, now they're produced in China. We have a company out of California called JSHP, but they're completely owned and controlled by the CCP. And they have, I think, about 20% of the New York City transformers are made by them. Also Las Vegas being huge in what, how they run their grid. And the situation there is that Trump, when he learned about JSHP and the CCP control, he had these transformers seized when he was in office at, I think it was like the port there in South Beach there in LA, had them seized and tested at Sandia National Laboratory. And what they found was there were back doors into all of these transformers where the CCP could come down and sabotage and shut down these transformers from remotely, from China, from any time they want to shut down the grid here. And so this is the situation. All of this reliance on the CCP for everything from drugs to medical supplies, to our electricity, to everything to do with our energy infrastructure, as they go forth across the world, causing war and mayhem in order to secure their Belt and Roads smart initiative, where they plan to create superhighways across the entire planet. They're doing it now in the Darien Gap. They're planning to build massive construction up there from Panama to create a huge highway up into the United States, where we're having, of course, the massive migrant infiltration, massive migrant invasion into this country. We had somebody who was embedded in the, you get your Michael Yon, you get your Ben Bergquam, all of them doing the great heavy lifting there of what's coming across our border. Well, they interviewed a man who, with his brother, had gone and embedded themselves in the Darien Gap to come through, to witness who's coming through, what's going on. And there was multiple, like a huge amount of Syrian fighting age men who had these fresh tattoos of Jesus Christ. They were like fresh, brand new tattoos of Jesus Christ with wearing crosses. Okay. And when you come through the Darien Gap there up from Panama through the jungle, there's a separate path or a separate trail that it looks like the jihadis are taking. Okay. A separate track up into the United States. And so that's all very interesting to look at as well. And from there, I might be rounding up here. I wanted to mention this thing around Gavi, because, Gavi, the massive, Cartel Babylon, Let's Kill You with the Shots organization, very much, run by Pence during his little time of reign, but it's Bill and Melinda Gates, hugely funded out of the WHO, out of the UN, Gavi, right? And what they're doing now is Gates is giving $600 million to hopefully vaccinate 90 million girls, okay, in underdeveloped countries, okay, to basically against HPV, okay, the human papilloma virus, right? And HPV, what's come out with Judy Mikovits in the last few days, and I'll link her below, therealdrjudy.com, Judy Mikovits, who exposed everything with the XMRV, retroviruses, everything to do with how they've been doing this in the shots to us forever, since at least the 90s, but before. Never take another shot, never get any of these simian viruses, cancer viruses put into you. Never put another person's blood into you if you can avoid it. It's considered by and never another animal that's non-human, but it's considered other than me. It's considered non-me, and so it's treated as an invader, and your body will attack it. Your body isn't autoimmune attacking itself. It's attacking these things that have been injected into us. And with HPV, what she says, Judy Mikovits, is that we were born with HPV. That it is, it doesn't come and hit you out of nowhere. We are born with HPV because it actually attacks cancer viruses. It attacks cancer. It attacks the viruses associated with cancer. And that them wanting to vaccinate against it is to actually give warp speed to these cancer viruses. And of course, we've seen that the HPV vaccines have paralyzed girls, have made them completely, just devastated their lives, where they can't think, they can't, their bodies are in constant pain. It's devastating and debilitating, then causes multiple cascade of illnesses over a lifetime, and then death, massive amounts of death from the HPV vaccine. And this is what they're planning to do, $600 million now to Gavi to vaccinate 90 million girls. And one thing that was really interesting about this is that warts in our bodies, like, on your hands or whatever, a lot of children get warts. And I would say this is after vaccination, for entertainment purposes only. After vaccination, kids get warts, and they're always like, oh, you had some kind of disease, you got warts. And apparently what Judy Mikovits is saying is that, no, actually warts are the body's response, okay, with this HPV mechanism that's already inside of us, that we're born with, to fight off the cancer viruses that are in the shots. So when you see the children getting the warts, their bodies are actually fighting the viruses that were given to them in the vaccinations for entertainment purposes only. And so I might leave it there. I want to say we're kicking off here into, the Black Friday situation. Everybody's like, oh, the holidays. And I just want to say, don't spend and waste your time on globalist tyranny, financial or otherwise. Invest your time, your thoughts, your treasure in the parallel economies. Give your money to things like Condemned USA, where they're raising money for the J6 families. Give a gift of a sponsorship to your family members, that, you're supporting, this, or give your money to publicsq.com, publicsquare.com, publicsq.com, where it's all patriot-run businesses. Go to mypillow.com and buy the incredible stuff from Mike Lindell, who's creating a massive infrastructure for fighting election fraud for 2024 to save us from what could be our last election to save this country. Give your money to not ever Amazon, Walmart, Target, the globalist companies, same thing. Don't give your money to these people, folks, or your time or your treasure. Give your attention, your love, your focus to fighting tyranny, to your local towns. Most important, support the people who are providing services in your town. Realize that all of this fake propping up, just like fiat currency, just like the fake federal bank of fake money that we've been doing in this country for so long. You'll have to pay a little more if you go to your downtown and purchase things and buy them for the people that you love. Stop buying at Amazon. Stop with the convenience. It's an inconvenient truth that we are being absolutely decimated by globalist control. And so I want to just put that out there, that as we go into this Black Friday situation, that you really spend your time and resources on preventing tyranny, on supporting parallel economy, and supporting the things that support you, and not giving a penny to fuel these people who want to kill you. Don't think, oh, my dollars don't make a difference, I'm just going to buy this package out of Amazon. No, that you're one of a billion doing the exact same thing that's allowing them to create this tyranny over us. So I'm going to leave it there, folks. 47 minutes. I didn't expect it to go so long. I know it's just been kind of basic information tonight, but it's really important that we see the connections between the tyranny of the FBI chasing Greg Yettman, they wanting to build this massive base bigger than the Pentagon in DC to support the weaponization of hunting down us Gulag archipelago style. That when we see McSally, attempted rape there outside Omaha, Nebraska, no helicopters there, no massive manhunt there, just see the connections between them wanting you to drink your wastewater, and yet they're going to give billions to build these hydrogen plants that we don't need because we already had very, very, very clean energy in this country. Very clean, the cleanest in the world when it came to using traditional methods of fuel in this country, oil, gas. So I'm going to leave it there, folks. Thanks so much for watching. I will plug my awesome sponsors, c60evo.com, c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YAFTV for 10% off. What I love about C60 Evo, we've got this situation where we have nano sensors in our bodies. It's come out through Operation Nano Domestic Quell that they started way back in the early 2000s, where they put sensors in all of us. It's only now that we're understanding that we're all, have this massive nano sensor situation in our body hanging out in our cells. What's great about C60 Evo and really high quality C60 products. This one they call the ESS60 molecule because it's 100% pure, created in massive state-of-the-art facility there in Texas, is that basically it gets into your mitochondria. It's able to attach to the garbage that's in there and hold it captive. Okay, hold it captive so that your glutathione and melatonin can take it out and flush it out of your body. And it's also a massive antioxidant. So it's like higher than vitamin C, one of the most potent antioxidants you can get to fight inflammation, to fight what they call autoimmune, but it's really the cytokine storm of invaders in your body. All right, it's just to attack all that, grab it, and allow your body to expel it. Incredible. It keeps doing its thing for 10 days in your body. It reconstitutes and keeps working for you. So c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YAFTV for 10% off. And then if you contribute to the channel, you get 15% off with a different email and code sent to you. And that'd be awesome. So thank you so much for supporting the channel, all the people who do. And of course, the 2 winners from the October giveaway. I give away 2 bottles every month of this on this channel because of the sponsorship of C60evo. And folks, I think just before I go, I want to mention, I mentioned in my last video about the Armenians in the in Jerusalem being attacked. It's been an ongoing situation with the Christians in the old quarter of Jerusalem. I got some trolls, everybody attacking me about it. No, it's real. It's happening. There was a huge, strange real estate deal that went on that would be like about a quarter of the real estate in the old quarter of the Armenian quarter of Jerusalem, where they had one of their own patriarchs kind of sell them under the bus with Israeli Jews and some kind of Australian Israeli Jew, and then Americans, and something to try to attempt to steal about a quarter of the land there. There's been huge radical Zionists attacking Armenian Christians in the old quarter for this whole last year, really massively. There's been situations where they're being harassed, being run over in the streets. Huge assault on Christians there in the old quarter in Israel. And so there's so much more we could talk about. We've got the reports coming out about Netanyahu's psychiatrist who apparently deaded himself. He killed himself. He shot himself in the head. I'm going to get more into that in my next video, but that happened about in 2010. But very interesting, tale coming out about what was going on there with him, with Netanyahu. We're going to talk about that in the next video. So you are free, folks. Thanks for watching. I hope this added value to everything that you are seeing, and just to try to help it coalesce. If it did, there's ways to help out the channel below if you want to. Always appreciated. You are free, and I think I'll see you tomorrow. All the best. You are free.